the Around the NFL podcast. Struggles through the pressures of fatherhood, but still looks great, baby.
From the Chris Wessling Podcast Studio, it's Around the NFL. I am Dan Hanzus. I got heroes here. Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler, and it is Wednesday. But that can only mean one thing. 1051 Club in the house. Colleen Wolfe.
What's up, what's up? Hey, guys.
Hi. How are
I
you?
left my house today and immediately texted Dan with the GPS ETA, which was just about 10:51.
Yep.
As was he. So we're really aligned.
Right on the money.
It's your precision is incredible to Greg and I.
And it's not.
Consistency, too.
It's just. It is. That's it. Consistency.
Yeah.
And accountability. 1051 Club forever. How's everybody doing? Midweek show. Hump day.
I thought it was Thursday when I woke up, so I'm not
Samesies.
sure. Yeah.
That Dan spilled water all over the place.
Colleen's
Oh, he's
days
good.
just feel lighter. They feel better, you know?
See, I have the opposite feeling.
Yeah?
Yeah.
With me?
Yeah, just
Is
like a
it
sense
the-
of dread. Yeah.
Is it the homicide division sweatshirt that I'm wearing?
The Philly Homicide Division hoodie is, I guess,
With a great
hanging
catch
over
line.
things.
They came up with a great catch
Yeah.
line there. What is it?
Our day begins when yours ends.
It's-
I got a buddy
oh
down.
my goodness, that's morose.
It's accurate. I mean, often.
I'm in the Christmas spirit.
Does that mean they work at night, or does it mean
No.
what I think it means?
There's a Grim Reaper literally as part
never
of
off the
logo,
clock.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like when your day means
Hey, guys.
your
Die, by
life
the
journey
way.
ends.
Yeah,
What was
our
that,
day
Mark?
begins.
that's when they start.
You can die, by the way.
Maybe
Yeah.
that would be a good slogan too. Then Mark, maybe you get some residuals off.
Well, I
it.
say you're allowed to, and then we'll probably handle it if it seemed
Yeah.
nefarious.
Detective
We'll-
Murray will be
yeah.
on the case.
We care about you, and we care about who you were.
All right. Coming up today, NFL odd couples. How about that? What are some pairings in our league that, on the surface anyway, don't make sense or not what you expect?
Mm-hmm.
Good one. Good seg coming up.
I think Greg came up with that.
But he did.
Good job.
So the pressure is on Greg to make it sing.
I choose not to accept that pressure.
We also have a bunch of previews to hit because we have a Thursday night affair, Chargers and Raiders. And I see in a rundown you sent out, Greg, you had LAX-LV. Is that because the Chargers are already ready to fly home?
Hey!
Hey-o! Got it.
Greg enjoys when he does the rundowns, and I'm glad you do, because it's like you wake up and they're there.
Sure,
but like,
there it is.
there's always like an insane spelling mistake in one of the
Yes.
things that he's done.
Where is this rundown that you guys are talking about?
Am I right,
Pod
though?
Nowness. I
You're
think
on
you
that.
have access to
You're
it
on
on
that.
Slack. You can always do it. I know you don't check, so I texted you.
Oh, the
you know.
potential news. I got that. Okay.
Works out.
And first, though, let's start by getting caught up on where we're at.
Flacco on 4th down and 3. Play clock is at 5. I don't know if they're going to snap it. Play clock is at 2. They do. He rolls right. He throws the middle. It's wide open. Down at the 25, at the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. It's David Bell.
What a call!
Oh, my goodness. They forgot to cover
David Bell!
It was the parting of the Red Sea, Jim. David Bell, who has been searching, yearning, desiring to get into the end zone in the National Football League. Well, desire no more, my friend. His first career touchdown, and couldn't have come at a bigger time. What a gutsy call, and what execution. Flacco to Bell, and the Browns are up 2 scores.
Oh, what a call!
Whoa!
By Jim Donovan and Nathan Segura, WKRK, Cleveland Browns radio. Onside kicks are cool, though, too.
I mean, Dan, you have to be the most annoying person I've ever met, because you've been sitting on this for 48 hours. Multiple people have reached out and said, we like the anti-direction you took to go with an onside kick. And
No one reached out to you. Zero people. Show me who reached out
I will
to you.
spend time and get it to you. But like, this is so important to you that you just keep going. with it.
manufactured
Just keep going.
joke.
It's so important
It's
to you.
so great to hear that call because David Bell, what a moment.
That-
What
they-
a
they do
moment
it,
in the game.
And Donovan and Segura bring the energy. It's great to see Donovan back in the mix.
Absolutely,
He's
that
a
too.
legend in Cleveland. So no one on earth is saying that it's not a good play call. No one is
Right.
saying they didn't do a good job.
You know,
Also, watching that video of the call
They're in
is
wild.
so fun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Great.
know if I've ever really
call.
watched a radio call or a broadcast call like that in the booth. It's awesome.
You were actually asking
you
for the
live for it.
Njoku call, though. So that was the
But
David Bell call.
So many options.
that was the last touchdown. And I'm not saying this to be annoying, although my competitive spirit, got a little offended when you said Dan's the most annoying person in the room.
But now I like Dan.
Is
again,
it
so
is
it's
it eligible? Is that play eligible? Because it wasn't on the show, and yet when I heard that call, immediately I thought that should probably be on our top 10 calls of the year long list. I think it's eligible. It's now been played on the show.
I've done my best to exhume these different calls from a great Browns
It's
win.
on the call. What if we
Put it on the list, Eric. I'm
What-
I'm
Yeah.
making the call.
put the
it on list.
onside
ahead.
kick on the list? Let people, vote
Well, we're
decide.
gonna keep that one out. That's dustbin.
Yeah, figured.
All right, we can move forward with that now.
We're good now.
Now
Okay.
we're good.
Okay, we're good.
Not good. Not good at all.
The people that didn't listen to the recap show have no idea what's going
Screw
on
'em.
right now.
Well, what are they doing?
You're not wanted here anyway. Then, actually, pause it. Go back. Listen to the recap show. Then rejoin
How
us.
rich would this opening segment be if
Laugh.
we went back
Ah,
and listened to that part of the show, if not the whole show?
This is a
Get
lot of
caught up.
tasks.
on the Sunday flagship show? Come straight to our show, and away we go.
We're back in.
I like
good
a
with
pod
that.
with directions.
Demands.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert is done. Bad news. Bad season. Bad season for Herbert. The Chargers. The idea of Los Angeles football, and getting some juice. Nah, bad. He is going to undergo surgery on his broken finger, and they are playing on Thursday night, obviously. So we're going to get Easton Stick.
Yep. We are.
Including Colleen, who's the anchor
Yep.
of NFL Network's coverage when the Chargers face the Raiders. So there's that. And then there's the general question around the future of this team. Herbert and Brandon Staley probably played their last game together as coach and quarterback. And we see what the future is. I assume it's Herbert leading the way, Mark. But I feel like this organization has a lot of unanswered questions as they head into the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, by Friday afternoon, if the coaching staff hasn't been largely whittled down. It just seems like a really real possibility at this point. With Herbert, it's like there's no question he's the future. And there's no question that this is a good roster in a lot of ways. They're mystifying because of how underachieving they've been. But I don't like the situation for Herbert in general, where we're looking at his fourth quarter. It's going to have this fourth new offense to learn. And this was pitched as Herbert and Kellen Moore, who are friends that did I think car commercials up in the Northwest.
It's a real
part-
bonding
Yeah,
experience.
they're pals. It's and all off season was we're really going to tailor this around Herbert's strengths. And it's none of that looked to happen at all. It was Herbert's worst
Well,
season.
some of it, though, is so we say, it's a shame that Herbert can't get that continuity. But if him and Kellen Moore take off and have a big year together this year, then probably none of this is happening. Well, the injury you can't control. But this is where I get a little bit frustrated with the Herbert experience and where he's seen. Is you can't just tell me because Mike Williams got hurt this year that the Chargers offense is where it is. This is a team-wide issue, and the quarterback has to be a little better too. So I just think that's what I mean. I still believe in Herbert, but just kind of a lost year for Los Angeles.
It always is a lost year for Los Angeles. This is the constant theme with this team. Ever since I started working at NFL Network, it's every offseason love the Chargers, and I'm all in on all of the moves that they've made and all of the way that they set up their team, but especially with Justin Herbert. And it's just such a shame because it just feels like they're just wasting his career at this point. He's young, he's in his prime. He should be among the top quarterbacks in the league with the Joe Burrows and the Mahomes and everyone, and even the Trevor Lawrences and Josh Allens, but he's just not, because this team can never put it together.
Wait, the Chargers wasting the prime years of a
What the
outstanding
hell?
quarterback's career?
What?
Exactly.
What?
I really loved Mike Sando's article in The Athletic this week that was saying that it shouldn't just be coaching records, there should be owners' records. And he put up the owners' records. And
Never be talking. When we get
that's
there.
right. That's where you see the through line. They didn't know they wasted Drew Brees, by the way. A Chargers quarterback. They wasted Rivers, who still had a great career and everything. And I don't think they're wasting Herbert, and I don't think this year was a disaster for him. but his best year was 2021. I think even Herbert, big fans like myself would say his best year was Staley's first year. Only his second year in the league. And so to then have your next 2 years be worse than that, individually and as a team, is quite disappointing. The only thing I'd push back slightly on is is this roster that talented? I am very curious how this goes in the offseason. Kind of the core players that they have, they all seem very up in the air to me. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, I think Bosa might be gone. Erwin James hasn't had a great year. Certainly the line didn't play as well. And Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are both good players, but where are their futures? So there could be a lot of change.
It just reminds me a little bit of when the Cowboys made a switch at defensive coordinator and Dan Quinn came in, and all the same players got a lot better. I think there is talent on the roster. I mean, for me, they have spent only 2 teams have spent more to form their defense cap-wise. They're number 3 behind Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and they're one of the worst defenses in the league.
That's rough.
In other news, big news, the NFL is always looking to expand its reach internationally, and we will be heading, well, I don't know about we, but that'd be cool.
We better be.
We being the NFL will be heading to South America for the first time. The NFL has already played games each year in the United Kingdom and Germany this year, and in 2024, it will be São Paulo, Brazil. The league announced on Wednesday. The date and time of the game and the teams that will play it have not been announced. It was chosen over Madrid, but I would imagine Madrid is in line as well. So that comes on the same day it was announced that the Super Bowl in 2027, which will be 61, will be played here at SoFi Stadium.
Nice little West Coast Super Bowl. Again, the international expansion is afoot. So you get Brazil, which, was news to me that they're the third most it's the country where they have the third most amount of NFL fans behind the U.S. and Mexico.
Wow, that's
and
surprising.
maybe and it's partly because it's a lot of people there. But we've heard from our fans in Brazil, and obviously there's a language difference. But the English speakers, we have a lot of listeners. We had remember they sent us uniform. I forget who it was. It was
it was a football team
uniform.
member,
I still have that in my closet of a Brazilian football team. So that is very exciting. And it was part of an announcement that they can now do up to 9 international games as of 2025. So that will not be next year. Technically, the Wembley Stadium Jaguars game does not count as part of the series. So
How does that work?
I didn't know that because basically they do it every year, and they're saying you take that out of it, and on top of that, we can now do 8 a year. In the past, it had been 4 a year, and part of it is just a scheduling thing. They're now saying, well, instead of making you give up a home game, with that 17th game every 4 years, now we can do it every 8 years. Now we can do it every 4 years, and so it's happening. And I think the idea, Mark, I'm curious what you think.
Kill at least 3 of us on the road.
Is to just have that early window, because they also even said publicly that 8 might go up from 8. I think the idea might be that early window, 6:30 on the West Coast, 9:30 on the East Coast of the U.S., is just a new window, and that's maybe at some point that's a weekly game, because the numbers, it all makes sense. The 16 games.
I
go from 8 to
appreciate the
16.
enthusiasm in your voice, Greg, over this development. It causes me slight anxiety, but I would say that if they, and I hope that they send us to Brazil. We do have a lot of people down there that listen to the show. The same way that we built a bridge for Goodell and his friends over to Europe, we can build one to South America.
Their bare hands.
Yeah, shout out to pick6.com. I don't know what's going on their website because I can't read it. But they got 10,000 followers, and they said just book the live show right now. I like that tweet to us this morning. So
you guys are really driving this.
Try to do that.
You're driving the international expansion, and you should be proud of that.
These are the hands that built the international expansion.
Brick by brick.
Well, Henry plays a role as well.
Do you think
Yeah.
we would all return from Brazil if we went to Brazil?
The answer is no.
I mean,
Wait, what would? I'm sorry. What would happen?
why would return to the United States if they sent us to Brazil?
Oh. Well, sounds like it'd be a good time.
Just saying,
Yeah.
sounds like a nice.
Who they got?
Bookend and
They
a
got to
new
go
books-
big with the teams they send there too. I wonder. If
who are they? What's
Cowboys,
the main
maybe?
fan base?
Well, I read that the Dolphins
Don't know anything about it.
The Dolphins, how different teams have.
Dan doesn't want to go.
They sort of own.
Well, I'd like to return. I would
Okay.
go.
Why wouldn't we return?
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
Mark's saying
he's
he
saying
would
he
choose
wants
to stay.
He wants
Yeah.
to disappear.
I like how
that-
we spin off of this.
Stay
Yeah,
for like
that-
3 months and see what like real life is like.
That could be
versus
anywhere. Like,
Pounding
we
back
never-
home 8 hour. Like,
Right.
oh, the game ended. You're on a midnight flight an hour later to come back to LA and
Right.
like, grind around the streets.
We're never sure if you're going to even get on like the flight back from Indianapolis for the combine. So it's, you
Still
never
my
know.
favorite.
We'd wait 3 days for you in Brazil, Mark, and then we'd get shook on a plane to LA, and we'd just have to move forward. And
I
just
don't think
assume you
anyone
were
would
gone.
complain, but I'm saying like it seems like we could pack in like a couple extra days in South America after the game.
Absolutely.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I'm down
Although-
with that.
Oh,
They always got us out like 8 minutes after. It's like you're rushing in a taxi with your
Uh-huh.
bags to the airport.
You got another show to do.
Right.
The thought of a 6:30 a.m. kickoff window on the regular.
I mean, it already,
It's over the
there
top.
was 5 this year, right?
Yeah.
It is on the regular.
It's
It-
like
It's happening. I do like a home.
doing the
a home
pregame
Super Bowl.
shows for that on the West Coast is selfishly, from my perspective,
sitch.
it is tough. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, there's a lot of complaining going on about this
Yeah.
game. Maybe we
I'm
should just
so excited.
cancel the whole thing. It's over.
We're turning the
All
car
right.
around. We're going
Eric,
home.
get Goodell on the phone. There's too many entanglements. In other news, I'm just going to keep tracking this because it's fun. The MVP odds race in Vegas per DraftKings. Dak Prescott is now jumped ahead in the race. I have some data points here. Dak, after his big game in primetime against the Eagles, is now at plus 150. Purdy's odds actually went up as well, but he drops behind Dak at plus 185. Lamar's at 475. Hurts at plus 650. And then Tyreek and Mahomes deep distance at 1,600. And CMC gone at 4,000 right now. So it could be turning into, and these things change quickly, but in Vegas, that's starting to point to, is this a 2-horse race between Dak and Purdy?
Sounds
Things
like
do
it.
change quickly because
Sure.
there's 4 weeks left of the season. I think 4 weeks ago Dak was something like plus 3,000. I always remember the year
Hope
where it was
somebody
like,
got in on that.
it was like Vic or Tom Brady, Vic or one of Tom Brady's best seasons ever, and then like literally with 3 weeks left of the season, and then Tom Brady became the first ever unanimous MVP, even though there was like even with 3 weeks to go. But Vic got hurt and had a couple bad games, and Brady finished strong. And so it's all about that closing kick. I think Lamar still has a pretty decent chance here.
I think there's a pretty big drop off to Hurts this time around.
Yeah, well, especially
agree.
with this stretch, and it's all about the narrative and what recently happened. But
Hurts
every
never
single
made
Cowboys,
sense there. I never thought he made sense there because to me he was getting outplayed by too many quarterbacks this year. Even though he's really good, he's like a top 5 quarterback, top 6 quarterback.
he's also like kind of
yeah.
hurt, like whatever's going on with him. But every single Cowboys fan I talk to is like, no, Dak will never win this award because it's Dak Prescott, and
What are
like,
you
well, I don't
talking
understand.
about?
Like the Cowboys lead every conversation.
If anything, he'll win the
ever
award because he's a
because of
Cowboy.
it.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
All right. Finally in the news.
And this would be the 3rd largest and create one long transcontinental flight home for the Chargers. Meanwhile, Jacksonville can set their sights likely on Kansas City. Here we go for the win. Got it, but there's a flag down. There's a flag down as everybody's running out onto the field, but there's a penalty marker.
Offside. Defense number 26.
And they call it on the defense.
That's the end game. Unbelievable.
That is unbelievable.
Whew.
That was the call from Al Michaels with Tony Dungy of last year's wild card game between the Jaguars and Chargers, a game that the Jaguars wiped out. What was it? 27-0 was that game?
yes.
And that might be the last call Al Michaels ever makes in a playoff game, because it emerged yesterday in a report from, of course, our guy, Andrew Marchand of the New York Post, that Michaels, 79 years old now, will not be on the air when NBC has a primetime availability or has a playoff game availability. So he was in line to, like last year, call one of the playoff games, and it came out that they're going to actually use their college guys, Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge. So they sideline Al, and this was a surprise to Al because in an earlier conversation with Marchand about a month or so ago, he had no idea that was even a possibility. So I'm sure he's furious about it, and it's this is the way, Mark. This whole insider media reporting business with these guys. It's kind of a ugly way for Al Michaels' legacy to be wrapping up here with being told he's benched and it being reported this way. But I felt it was noteworthy because we've been talking about Al and how he's not quite the same the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think like anyone can see that, Al Michaels, who for as long as we've been alive has been like the number one legend, and his career largely pristine, and he does it all. You don't get guys like this that announce every sport and have an ability to do it all really excellently. And like, it made me think like when I saw this, like nothing ends well half the time. Like it's hard to be the rare person that your final moment is, Peyton Manning in a bad season walking out with a Super Bowl title.
Right.
And it's like, it's tough when your job is to be enthusiastic, to bring fire, to be on that call, which was so lackluster and got so much attention and there was confusion. Like age affects all that. And it's like you're finally starting to see like the dotting up of age and like, how, like, are you the center of this like call, of this like game, this moment? And it's not been the same Al Michaels. I still think, though, when you hear him in interviews and stuff, there is this thing to him that no one else has. And I kind of hate it for him because he's been in our lives and in our ears and on our television sets for the entire time.
The crazy part is NBC actually has more playoff games this year. They have 3 on Wild Card Weekend. One of them's just on Peacock, which is the most, they've never had 3 games like that. So, yeah, something goes on. It is sad. He hasn't been set up well at Amazon. Watching some of the college football playoffs, I was like, oh, this is fun seeing Kirk Herbstreit excited about a football game.
Mm-hmm.
It really bothers me. It's like, this is the number one sport, and I know college football and the NFL is the same sport, but it was the same reason why I always didn't like Costas on NBC. It's the number one sport in our country. You got to have guys that it's their number one sport. That's a Herbstreit side point, but it had been on my mind, and I think it hasn't helped Al out, but also the schedule hasn't, and he hasn't helped himself out. I think it's deserved too, but it just sucks.
I think you definitely should have Al on the call while he's still around. So I disagree fundamentally about this, and I think it's not a nice thing to do for a guy who's absolutely still capable of calling the game. And I also want to say,
I just mean there's better guys out there, like Ian Eagle, Kevin Harlan. A lot of guys, to me, there's enough guys way ahead of Al that it's like those guys should be on.
But then don't do that. And the problem is now we're all talking about it. Like, let him do the playoff game, and then you make your offseason changes.
It might be personal. It might be a personal thing, though. There's things that we don't know that often affect these sort of things, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like you said about walking away at the right time, and I think ego is part of that too. John Madden did it perfectly, but you got to be really looking forward to that next part. You got to be just ready to like give all that up, and it's a lot to give up.
Even when he's like not excited about the games, though, it's still Al Michaels, and you still have that comfort in the familiarity of watching so many games with him over the years. So
I'm not saying that Ian Eagle
kind of sucks, but
not the better choice or whatever at this stage. But when Al's only going to be around a couple more years doing this, and so as someone who's grown up with him, I'm perfectly comfortable giving him that playoff game and letting him enjoy it. And like you said, make that change if you want after the year. I don't know. I just don't like the way it was handled. And I don't like that if that was his last game, they gave him Dungy. And Dungy was more the problem than Al on that telecast. And
Agreed.
Al kind of got dragged into it. Dungy was brutal. He was so boring and dry. Whatever.
I don't know why they thought that was going to be a good idea in the first place.
We're definitely getting texts from our friends here, the business on this one. I like it.
That's what's happening in the news. We'll be right back. Hit some odd couples. Yeah, all right. Welcome back. Listen.
I love
so
the sting. I love a sting.
The sting has been a regular part of the show.
I
Since
know,
you were
it's
last
great.
on it. Yeah, it's it just feels a little more official when you have it.
I like it. The production value, all the bells and whistles. You guys are doing great.
Let's hit it again. It's so fun. Let's just hit it again.
Thanks, Colleen.
Yeah, all right. Welcome back. Around the NFL. NFL, odd couples. Okay, what are some unlikely bedfellows? How about that? Greg, this is your brainchild. You get us going.
Well, I really give Colleen credit. We're on a text thread, and she sent us the trenchant update yesterday with the headline, "Looks like Kevin Costner and Jewel really are a thing," which was news to me. I didn't know there was news about that.
Mm-hmm.
I clicked on the link. There's some pictures. Pretty surprising.
Now, I said
well-
this because I know that Mark has always really enjoyed Jewel. And
Sure.
when I first
He's a
moved
big
to
Kilcher
LA
guy.
in 2014, I lived across the street from a karaoke bar called The Gaslight. And Jewel famously had been there singing before. And
In disguise, I believe.
yes.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
Mark told me about that, and I never forgot about it. And now anytime I see anything Jewel related, I have to send it out. Now, there hasn't been a lot lately, but this one
Well,
definitely counts.
she did have an NFL connection. Once dated Charlie Whitehurst,
That's right.
Oh.
That was weird. Yeah.
former Seahawks, and
Down in Rocky Top, they had
so that was a
place
bit of
together.
Big
an
ol'
odd
Rocky Top.
couple. I
Yeah.
would say Jewel and Costner definitely an odd couple. And look, I owned the CD Pieces of You back in the day.
Who didn't?
And so I was thinking
Did
we
you
should think
really?
of some NFL odd couples.
You have
Yes,
Pieces of You?
I did. I think it was part
What
of
an achievement! It was like a massively
Yeah,
like,
that
I mean,
was
I
a
don't.
rare.
I didn't know
I
many
liked it.
teenage guys that had Pieces of You. That's
I had
all.
Pieces of You. I wasn't
Oh,
even
yeah.
a teenager though, but it
Yeah,
wasn't
he was
just
like,
for.
he was like in
they
his
both had
30s.
pieces of
It
You,
wasn't
man.
just for girls.
I
or
was
something,
I was a freshman in high school. I think I got it as part of that. You remember you get the 8 CDs from Columbia House? I
Sure,
think that
for a
was one
penny.
of them. I think that
Well,
was one
let's
of them.
For 1 penny, by the way.
Everybody,
We're really
like, pump
old.
the brakes
We're
a
old.
little bit here.
What?
First of all, Jewel isn't just for girls, but I follow music pretty closely, and I know a lot of people that love. I've never seen a guy that had Pieces of You in his
Okay.
jewel case.
And if she
In
sold,
his-
I just would like to point out she's sold over 30 million albums worldwide. I
Who
think
will
there's-
save your soul?
Yeah, I think there's
Foolish
some men in there.
Games. I mean,
She got
these are
bangers.
classic.
I
Not
like
really a
Jewel.
bad song on that album.
So who is
I'm
the?
surprised by your take, Dan.
Yeah, I don't
What's
like
my
it.
take? What's my take?
Taking down
That-
Jewel.
You said
I love Jewel's
a
singles.
guy would never have a Jewel that album
said-
in what case?
I said
His
I
Jewel case?
never met somebody, a man that had Jewel CD.
Maybe
that's
they
all.
just
And this will be now turned around to me being some type of misogynist ass.
no.
I'm just telling you from my human experience.
That's cool.
I've never known another man in
I'm
my
just
college years
surprised.
or my high
I
school
think the-
years
I
where
think the
saw the
numbers
CD.
would
But
say
now you
though
do.
they did own
Now
it.
I do.
They did own it, but their own internalized misogyny and their fear of you, they didn't tell you about it. They were ashamed.
All right, I
Dan,
hope
congratulations.
Let's
everybody-
come out in the sun, Jewel fans. We're taking over 2023.
just everybody
Fear
give
of
themselves a round of applause for being so open-minded.
Jewel heads.
So who is the Jewel Kevin Costner couples in the NFL? That's what I asked, and I'm going to start with someone that's maybe around Jewel's age. I don't know how old she is. It's Joe Flacco, him being back in our life with Kevin Stefanski. To me, was the first thing that came to my mind, and I think you could even extend this to Joe Flacco and Marc Sessler as an NFL odd couple, and the Browns fans writ large finding themselves in 2023 rooting for Joe Flacco, the same guy who ripped their heart out for so many years, dominating them with the Ravens. All this cross-pollination, and these two guys, and Kevin Stefanski having a quarterback that is going to make some mistakes, but also will just throw the ball to where Stefanski wants to open receivers. And it's a rare couple, and you see couples out there like this that kind of look alike, something Joe Flacco was asked about this week.
He was saying that last week. I mean, I'm a guy with a beard. You know. I could shave it off and look completely different tomorrow. So I probably should. It's just playing into the fact that I'm an older quarterback. If I shave this off, it would probably take 5 years off.
I love this.
His accent is so
you know.
good. It reminds me of home. I love it.
Oh yeah, right.
Audubon, New Jersey.
They're like around the same age, Stefanski and Flacco, couple years apart here, and
It is. That's a great one.
It's a moment in time, and we'll see where it goes. But I think they're a pretty legitimate team, although they have some injuries. And I think Stefanski loves showing, I am a good offensive coach. I think Flacco's helped him.
He has
do
been
that.
good.
He's brought out the best in his unlikely partner.
They've lost 3 offensive tackles. They just lost another one. I don't know how deeper into the NFL, free agent circles and stuff you can do to solve that. But it is a little different than Big Ben was 26-2-1 against the Browns, and largely probably the most hated opponent for Browns fans around, just because of how he'd like to stick it in their face. Flacco was never that way. That's all I'd say. I mean, he also was 18-3. the second best record to the point when he won in Cleveland.
Wait, he was 18-3 against the Browns, and
Yeah.
you're saying it wasn't that bad?
No, so I'm saying
That's
compared
Well,
to Big
everybody
Ben.
was beating the Browns in that.
Yeah.
era.
That's 18-3 is.
I would just say
it's
personally,
crazy.
as much as I distaste I had for the Ravens, it wasn't like Flacco based so much.
No.
There's a bunch of other knuckleheads on that team that
Also,
drove me nuts.
It's just kind of crazy, though. If you had said this before the season,
It's
totally
it's a totally odd sight, but I would say he's done a nice job of like in his stuff, like in the locker room last week. Like he's very happy to be there, and there's a different kind of
Right.
feel to Joe Flacco, and he's been a different athlete than we saw on the Jets.
I disagree with that.
Well, at least like he looks fresh to
He
me.
has a better like offensive line around him. I think that matters
For
a
now.
lot. I mean, he could throw. He could always throw. I like it. I'm enjoying seeing him this way, and we'll see if it keeps up.
It's just so weird to
It is
see him in a Browns jersey, and it's like Joe Flacco being a Brown is the most 2023 on-brand thing for the NFL. Like all of the different quarterbacks that we've seen, I think it's this week when Nick Mullen starts and when Easton Stick starts, it will be 57 different starting quarterbacks this season.
That is
Including
problematic.
including 10 rookies, which is
But they've been some of the more fun quarterbacks, actually.
some
They
of them.
have.
Some of actually, Easton Stick had one gorgeous throw the other. Colleen, I want to hear yours because you said you had 5.
Okay,
You
so
got to choose.
this one, I cannot stop following all of the, like everyone else right now, but I'm completely in love with the DeVito family and Tommy DeVito and everything that they have following them. And so for me, the odd couple is Tommy DeVito and the rest of the NFC East fans, because I know that I'm not alone in this, and I felt so strange watching Tommy DeVito and almost rooting for the Giants on Monday night. It felt super wrong, but there was something exciting about it at the same time. And just like having been in New York last week, I went over to Brooklyn. I got some pizza. You guys know I love sandwiches. Like I feel like I essentially grew up Italian because like that's just our family is not Italian, but we act like Italians and we love everything about Italian Americans and Italians in general. So it's like this story is so fun. I'm currently trying to convince the network to like send me to the Giants-Eagles game on Christmas Day so I can tailgate with the DeVitos because I really, really want them to do the 7 fishes in the parking lot.
Do it.
The 7 fishes. Look it up if you don't know. I have a take on that. I think because Eagles fans hate the Giants and vice versa.
Yeah, it's more so than the Cowboys.
You have to play them twice here down the stretch.
And they are playing twice. That's right. But here, I think part of what makes this DeVito thing so kind of fun is that it's also kind of a safe thing. Because you know DeVito, it's not like if DeVito was actually the guy that was here to save the Giants, you probably would be more afraid of him or like, oh, God, they found somebody that's amazing. But instead, he's more just like this like 2023 fun found story that you know is probably a moment in time. So it's like, oh, I'll root for this guy. He's not really
The Giants
that
are
good.
bad, so it's not a threat.
Easier. Now, if you were like battling for first place right now, and he was actually balling out on a high level, I think it would be a little different, maybe.
Little different. And I probably will feel different if the Giants beat the Eagles on Christmas Day.
Yeah, you might feel a little different then.
But in the lead up to it right now, I mean, my heart right now is with the DeVitos.
Very nice.
And the agent, the whole thing.
The agent is.
Oh.
I
hope
absolutely
he's
adore
been
him.
busy. I hope he's been doing his job. That's all I'm saying.
The agent?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he's got a lot of jobs. You kidding me?
I
That
hope
guy?
He's getting up early.
He's got waste management. He's got tow trucks.
I'm trying to. Obviously, he
What do you
became a
mean?
big story immediately on Monday night, and then Tuesday he was everywhere and doing media and everything. And then I clicked into his Instagram. Sean Stellato, is it?
My agent was with them that night too. Yeah.
Whoa.
And that's funny. And there was like an Instagram post from I think it was like months ago, and it was like, "Welcome Sean Stellato to the Boston Italian American Hall of Fame."
I saw
And I'm like, what am I missing here? Is this guy a well-known person? This is before any of the DeVito mania.
Hall of Famer.
the
Can't
Italians
take it
know.
away. So he's obviously done things in his career.
He's a paisan.
I know that. I mean, that's established. I'm just curious what his other successes in life are. besides being
I mean, that's
Italian.
not good enough. Fine.
Some under the radar, I imagine.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
All right, Mark.
I want to double back on something we were mentioning earlier with this, which is the Chargers. And I have been doing some research, and I would like to file a report on the Chargers.
Okay.
Okay, so not every coupling is just like, hey, one person and the other person, we're having a great time. It's like, we live in a multifaceted universe
Big
now,
time.
right? So I look around the league, and I look at the Chargers, and I spot a polyamorous relationship on the rocks. So it started with an air of adventure,
right?
And they always do these things. There was so much to like: a star quarterback in Justin Herbert, a bright young new thinking coach in Brandon Staley, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, talented bodies on both sides of the ball, all living together and sharing meals and passion, and one shared vision of love on a grand scale. People say we can't live like this, but they don't know us, the Chargers said to themselves. But then little attachments and jealousies started to form. Some became self-interested, and internal questions began to rise, asking if this polyamorous arrangement, Herbert, Staley, Kellen Moore, Tom Telesco, Keenan Allen, the always banged-up Mike Williams, an ownership group that left its fan base to wither in the San Diego dust, was functional or fantasy. And right now, I imagine them all gathered in the living room of their large group home, talking about why they began this love experiment in the first place, to live in a way nobody thought possible, to cast off the old, petty, toxic qualities that ended all their relationships prior, but it's just not working. It was just a phase in life, an exploration of boundaries, a time they'll never forget. But the breakup is overt and imminent.
I hate that for them. It
has to end, though.
A lot of exploring.
Can't go forever.
Yeah, but they thought it could. They thought that they could
go
have this
longer.
lifestyle that everyone said no. Like, this is why most people don't do it. This is why it doesn't work out. And they said, no, look, watch us. And now they're in this situation where
everyone thinks they're
it's a
different.
shame.
Everyone thinks they're a special little flower.
Yeah,
right. It's like
not true.
This is what you learn, at the end of every multi-part docu-series about a cult. But it's like the Chargers were hoping for like 8 episodes, and they only got 3. It just shortened down.
Tough. Real tough sitch. But it's weird. We never got the honeymoon phase with this team.
That's
just
so
all
true.
sad the whole time.
The honeymoon phase is in
They did
training
win a bunch
camp,
of games to make the playoffs.
Adversity out of the gate.
At the end.
It was over before it started.
All right. So I kind of went Connie here, and I took NFL odd couples to mean something a little bit different, but this will work.
Okay.
So the odd couple for me is the Kansas City Chiefs, and them being in cahoots or in the role of the bad guys. This has not happened before.
That's interesting.
This is new, and this is after a Sunday in which Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid both got after the officials and bemoaned how they're being targeted, or failures by officiating are happening over and over again. And this comes from a team that's had nothing but monumental success for years. Do you have Mahomes? To Mahomes' credit, when things calmed down and he realized that I should probably hit the accelerator a little too hard, he spoke to the media with regrets about how things played out. This was yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't want to react that way. I care, man. I love it. I love this game. I love my teammates, and I want to go out there and put everything on the line to win. But obviously can't do that. I mean, can't be that way towards officials or really anybody in life. So I probably regret acting like that. But more than anything, I regretted the way I acted towards Josh after the game, because he had nothing to do with it.
And that's The Drive, Odyssey 610 Sports Radio. He appeared on and said that. And you know what? Good. That's fine with me. And I love Mahomes, the player, and I think he's a good guy. And that him saying that, I don't carry any ill will at all toward him. However, I just think you heard so much vitriol toward them and the reaction to that people are just sick of the Chiefs. And this is a team that hasn't won less than 11 games since 2015. Patrick Mahomes, as everyone knows, has never played a road game in the playoffs. They're always a top seed. The last 5 years for the Chiefs have gone AFC title game, Super Bowl win, Super Bowl loss, AFC title game, Super Bowl win. The regular season record in the Mahomes era entering this season, 64-18. Mahomes obviously multiple MVPs, multiple Super Bowl MVPs. Andy Reid, the head coach, was a guy that you rooted for because he never got over the hill, never got over to the mountaintop. He's done that now twice. And in general, there's this vibe that everyone is okay with the Chiefs getting their comeuppance because they've gotten some calls over the year themselves. Listen, I remember that Jets Sunday night game. I was mad about that game, and it was like, why do the Chiefs always get the calls?
How about
It's
the
like
Super
it always
Bowl?
used to be the Patriots.
The Super Bowl.
How about the Eagles in the Super Bowl? So it's like that makes sense too. That there's a growing sentiment like enough of these guys.
Well, it's like when I was watching Patrick Mahomes at the end of that game, I thought to myself, that is the reaction of someone who is not used to losing. And it was all over the place. He was so furious, and I could not stop watching. I wish that there was more camera shots of him. I
Just
wanted
the
like
Mahomes is
security
big mad
footage,
cam,
like
yeah.
from sides of buildings to see every single shot of him, because we're just not used to seeing anything really negative with this team, them really face any true adversity and any real flaws come out. And now we are, and it sort of makes it easier to be like, well, let's see more. What happens now when you put even more pressure on them, and will they break under it?
I think about like that 11-5 Patriots team that started 0-2, and like Belichick was on the rocks, and when they went and beat the Rams in the Super Bowl, like vast amounts of the country were delighted by that because they had been that team that were on the outside, and like they were lovable winners, and it was a great time. Like,
And the Rams were a superpower at that point.
they were.
Yeah.
And so that, it was just post 9/11. It was just like something felt kind of pure and great about it. The next year, they don't even make the playoffs. So it's like, they're not bothering us. But then they go win 2 straight Super Bowls. And
But
everything
even
starts.
that 2003 year, people weren't like sick of him then because they
No,
weren't
'cause
expected to do it that
But
year either.
2003, like they had not made the playoffs. It's like the Chiefs have been as close as we have to the next dynasty, and they've been perfect. And like even last year, it's like, oh, Mahomes has like a high ankle sprain. Then he's like, oh, I'm gonna have my greatest rushing game in the playoffs. It's like whatever adversity they faced by Sunday, like they overcame it. Like this is a different place, but it's just exhaustion in sports. Like we're always craving. Unless you're a Chiefs fan, you want a new story. It's tough. I think it's tough for Tony Romo to say the same stuff about Patrick Mahomes over and over. So it's like, show us someone new. Tommy DeVito is a fascination because it's like no one expected this human being to be in our life.
They hate us because they ain't us. You know, no matter who you are at the top, it's going to be like that. And the Chiefs are a great test for it because they are about as likable. Like in the end, Andy Reid is still going to be the guy moving his fingers trying to get those little nuggies. You know, you're not going to not like Andy Reid. You're going to love him.
And Mahomes is a nice guy.
Right. The
and
next day, he's apologizing.
Yeah.
Even like Tom Brady, when you really pull it back, was like a tough guy to truly hate. But he was easier. He obviously had the Deflategate and all that stuff. But like in interviews and stuff, but Mahomes is even more difficult, I think, to dislike.
The Patriots were perfect for the role because they were
leaned into
great
it a little.
for longer. They were in multiple scandals, and Belichick is Belichick. It was kind of everything made sense, so they were easy to hate. The Chiefs, not as easy, and yet I feel like people are starting to.
You just get bored. Just want something new, especially after last year.
Who wants to go? Who's got another one?
Okay. I figure I'm only gonna go a second time, right? So
this is it, Greg. Make it count.
Right. The speed what round of the ones I passed. You know, Allen and Diggs I think was kind of a fun one because that thing is still going on. That's weird. Mike McDaniel and Vic Fangio would be a classic sort of buddy cop thing where it's the young wisecrack and the old curmudgeon coming together to do a great coaching job. But I'm gonna go Jake Browning and Zach Taylor, just showing us like they're not just guys that were made by Joe Burrow, and they're making each other better. It's like a couple where like maybe neither of them caught your eye, and then suddenly they're out together, and you're like, God damn, they're both pretty hot. Like this is a totally different
Wait, what?
Bengals. I don't know. This is different.
Physically?
This is a different Bengals offense completely than it was with Joe Burrow, and I know it's not going to last like this, but the numbers are the numbers. 2 of their 3 best offensive games of the year, really their 2 best offensive games, were by Jake Browning. They weren't by Joe Burrow. Like, that is pretty crazy. By EPA per play, by yards, everything like that. They've actually done better the last 2 weeks than any Burrow game this year, except for the 49ers game. And no one's saying, obviously, that they can stay at the level or he's anything like Burrow. But I give Taylor a ton of credit because instead of it being Burrow's offense where it's 5 everyone's spread out, and I'm just going to figure everything out, and I'm sort of the coach ultimately. It's back to what Zach Taylor came from, and this matchup we'll get into it, but I just want to point them out especially. It's a great matchup for it because he's part of that McVay tree, and it looks like those teams. It's way more play action. It's much more under center. It's screen game. And you know what? Like, it's kind of helping some of the people around them do their best. Again, it's not a long-term thing, but I really admire the way they've adapted those two specifically as a couple, because Browning's playing great. We thought he was an example of, these garbage backup quarterbacks that don't deserve to play. They knew something, and Zach Taylor's showing us something with what they've been doing.
This is the year where, like, a lot of coaches have had to deal with this, and some have survived, like Shane Steichen and Gardner Minshew have survived. Like, this pair have survived.
They've survived, like, with not terrible, but poor quarterback play.
Good.
This
but
is
in contrast to,
right.
I can think of a couple teams where you lose your starter.
Right.
It's like curtains. It's total curtains. And it does. There are a couple coaches that were hired to develop quarterbacks. Daboll's doing that right now. I'd say Stefanski's done it, where it's like you're in the mix. It's working. You're interesting if you're not in the mix because you haven't gone total flotsam jetsam at quarterback.
And you do it a different way, which I guess I didn't. They've done that under Zach Taylor. They've closed strong. They've kind of adapted during seasons, and I'm pretty surprised to see them putting up, 400+ yards and 30+ points back-to-back weeks. It's pretty wild against decent defenses too, not against like trash bag teams.
Anybody else want to throw one out?
I have a quick one,
Okay.
and I will keep it quick. Like, we went down David Tepper Avenue with a lot of vengeance and a lot of fire, and I get it.
Vengeance?
Well, just like
I thought it was fun.
No, but just like, I mean, the whole football world was like.
The branding is important.
What?
Tepper be talking.
No, I mean I think we handled it in a ginger and informative way. But I would say this. I think in that conversation. All right, let's do this. That's fine. But so that, like, in that conversation, one name never came up, and I never really heard this person's name come up at all. And it makes me wonder about the coupling of David Tepper and Scott Fitterer, because Scott Fitterer is one of the more anonymous general managers around, and I guess you can say he has no power. Maybe Tepper's just doing everything. Fine, but I don't think that's the case. Like, Scott Fitterer is 13-34. He made the trade to bring Bryce Young. I know it wasn't just his pick, but he is the guy on the phone negotiating a trade that looked pretty ridiculous to me. He went and got Sam Darnold. That didn't work. P.J. Walker. That didn't work. He brought Cam Newton back in that weird little dose of time. That was weird. Baker Mayfield, who's gone on to Tampa to be functional, melts down there, and they cut him mid-season. It's been totally chaotic. It's been an absolute nightmare visually. It's optically one of the worst teams in the league. Their future is strange. It's going to be tough to get a coach, and no one brings up the fact that they have a general manager that has done nothing correct.
Is this an episode of Federer Be Better? Well, it's a sad situation, Mark.
I just think he's, skated by, and why is he never brought up?
Is he the new Trent Baalke? Because I feel like Baalke a few years ago was getting all of the heat, and no one wanted to work with him. And he was difficult, and now it's
Here's my take on Federer Be Better this episode. Federer probably has the worst life in the world right now of any NFL figure. After what we heard was happening with poor Frank Reich, getting called into the office and just getting buried every Monday morning. Maybe there's a reason we're not hearing from Federer. Maybe he's in a dungeon somewhere.
Fitterer. It doesn't rhyme quite as easily, but it is Fitterer. And yeah, this feels like a pilot that.
Fitterer's in a dark place.
Fitterer
right
Be Better.
Maybe literally.
I don't think it's making it to season 1. I think it's a one and done
spinoff.
Sorry.
Well, he could land somewhere else, and then we could reboot it. So good app though. Good app.
That's good.
Anybody else?
You guys already hit on Mahomes. Mahomes and his receivers was one kind of odd couple. Belichick and losing. But also, Robert Kraft and Meek Mill is one that they are always, it seems like they are at events together.
That is an odd couple.
Always
they have been on the jet together, and they seem to genuinely enjoy each other's company. And I would just love to be there for a conversation between the two of them, because I bet it would be kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I do wonder if Robert Kraft was just a day-to-day Hammond Egger, like a barbershop guy just cutting people's hair. Like, does Meek Mill care about him? There might be something else.
Belichick as a barber would be interesting.
Well, and
he has,
vice
the worst
versa.
haircuts.
I don't think if Meek Mill was cutting hair that Robert Kraft would be particularly interested in. Maybe
a power
goes both ways.
Power magnet.
Like, I want Robert Kraft listening to Dreams and Nightmares. I want to. That's what I want to be present for.
By the way, Odd Couples teenage and 20-something men having pieces of you. I will say I think I had Jagged Little Pill, Alanis. I had that.
Yeah.
But
they seem very different to me. But that's a
Yeah.
step in the right direction, I guess, if that's what we're.
Well, it's
going
again,
for.
it's not the right direction.
I don't
Like,
know. I don't know.
I can't rise to your guys' level of like
No one's
understanding.
making a judgment
we're
that
not-
you didn't have
I can't
it.
get
Why-
there.
This
I
is the
can't
biggest
get
man
there.
on the planet.
I can't get there.
But why
Greg.
does Alanis Morissette like?
We didn't
Alanis
say
Morissette
anything
and
about
Joel
your
are very
taste.
I
We
can't
just
get
said
there.
we had it.
I can't get there to where you are, Greg. But I'm just saying. I think I had Alanis. That's all I'm saying.
I didn't have Alanis, but I was a big Liz Phair guy. I don't think she's stuck, but I had a Tori
Liz
Amos
Phair.
album. For
I've
sure.
seen that as well.
I just hate
seen
that Dan hates Jewel. Like I just don't. I don't know why.
I had Tori Amos.
Amos. You would see some Amos.
Yeah, my brother went to a Tori Amos concert, and he was somehow in like the second row, and he told me that like she spent the entire show not out of attraction, like staring right into his eyes.
What?
There was a little bit of anger in some of her music, and I think
Maybe
she
he
would
looked like an ex or something.
I don't.
know.
She'll pick one person and like focus on that.
I've heard of
the
that.
whole
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you do that at our live shows.
At our live show, I can't see anything. Like it's just like, and also lots happening. So
Vanessa Carlton, was she in that time?
That was a little later. I feel like I
Carlton
bought tickets and attended. I don't know which year it was, but it was definitely whenever Liz Phair was there, the Lilith Fair with my girlfriend.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Greg,
I think it was probably 97.
please find pictures. Someone
Greg, you
must
deserve a
unearth
trophy.
them.
I'm not like I'm just fine. I just
The
wanna
world's
share
most
it.
comfortable man, Gregg Rosenthal, went to Lilith Fair too and had the Jewel CD. Anything else you want to add to your resume? Your CV?
That's about it. I think Sarah McLachlan was running that thing.
Oh,
She
you
was.
know what?
You know who was there?
Great album.
Missy Elliott. Because I remember when she walked
She was
by.
at Lilith Fair?
Yeah, when she went by, you could touch her inflated
yes.
outfit.
Oh,
So I
really?
remember, like, she came up, the aisle, and you could touch the.
I don't care.
That
Yeah, let's please move on.
that Sarah McLachlan album that had the Building a Mystery bangers all over that one.
yeah,
Veruca
riddled with
Salt?
Surfacing, I believe it was
riddled
called.
with them.
Also a Lilith Fair
We're old.
stalwart. All right, where are we at? We good with this?
Please.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're out of here.
Let's finish up with a fun way to hit these previews because we got 4 to hit. There's a Saturday triple header, so that's starting now, and we have Thursday night football. So, Eric, do you have how we do? Want to clock it? Is that what we
Yes.
want to do?
Yeah.
3 minutes? Or is that what we want to do?
3 minutes is good.
3 is fine.
All right. How about this? Just so we have a little bit, let the person set it up and then start the clock. Okay. And let's start with Thursday night football. So let's go in order here, time-wise. Greg.
I feel like I want to donate one of the minutes to a different game. Is that allowed? We
just
already talked Herbert.
do your best. Here we go.
Okay.
Chargers, Raiders. Go ahead.
Okay, so we got Easton Stick starting against the quarterback to be named later. We think it is Aiden O'Connell. One last time. I guess that would be where I start. If he doesn't play, Antonio Pierce has indicated, maybe they'd go back to Jimmy Garoppolo, despite the risk that they would be taking injury-wise and what that would mean for their contract.
Wait, why?
I don't know.
Wait,
because he wants to win games.
But it's same ownership that benched Carr for the same reason, isn't it?
That's a good point. So
Well,
maybe it's just idle speculation by
Raiders are in a
reporters.
murky spot. Like that's not a. I mean,
I think
it is
they-
the same ownership.
I think they want to win. AOC, AOC versus Easton Stick. Big time. Easton Stick had a couple dimes. He also had some terrible throws in that little.
Jimmy G is
appearance.
also like Mr. Glass. So the idea of
Yeah.
Derek Carr is one thing. You can't if you tried to kill Derek Carr, you can't do it. People have been trying to do it for weeks now. But Jimmy G is like that's a real roll of the dice. And for what cost? I don't know.
I don't know. They're both 5-8, so they're technically not eliminated.
I think if you're Antonio Pierce, like this
All right, I
matters
like that.
a lot. Like I think he has a chance to not hopefully just be like a token head coach
Yesterday
interview.
hurt. I mean, last week hurt, but
It
still
did.
got time.
It
Yeah.
did, but like they've been a
But he's a
they've been
defensive
better
coach.
right? And their
Yeah.
defense was good, but they've been a better team. I mean, I don't know. It's like at this point, both teams are kind of drifting away. Like, how about if you're the Chargers and you're thinking about even next year, like Quentin Johnson came off a game where he had 91 yards. They were off 2 big catches late, but like
There you
show us what you can do for the next month. Nothing matters. So the pressure's off.
That's
The
perfect.
pressure's off. Just go like a couple of these guys. Like we know, like you're going to be there for the next coaching staff.
Nothing does matter at this point, especially for the Chargers. Their offensive line is also a disaster, so I was looking to see who the backup is to Easton Stick, and it's Max Duggan.
Oh, yeah, the TCU national championship guy.
So hopefully
go
it
well.
doesn't come down to that. But I mean, watching Max Crosby, who was hurt in that game, he still is coming off a knee injury, and he played well in that game. I think he had 2 sacks, and so now he hasn't practiced all week either. But going up against Easton Stick, I don't know, guys.
Josh Jacobs might miss the game, too.
Yeah.
There's a thought that maybe they'll sit some of these guys at some point, but not yet.
And Devontae Adams, who's one of my favorite players to watch in the league, it's just sad that he's just being wasted right now. And he had some comments this week that it was embarrassing what happened, the 3-0 loss, and how long did it take him to get over it? I mean, I'm moving past it. I'm not over it, but I'm past it for sure. I think he's going to add a lot of intrigue to the offseason because I think it makes so much sense for them to trade him, and it's going to give them a premium draft pick, and it's him at age 31 or whatever it is going to a contender and likely a quarterback who can get him the ball. So he's, I think, in his final games as a Raider too. Anything else?
Yeah,
Chargers Raiders. Guys, you can watch the Thursday night game day kickoff on NFL Network. We get started at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's a 2.5-hour pregame show. So
there's another odd couple, you and Steve Smith.
To talk about.
You know?
I love Steve. Steve's the best.
2.5 hours.
Yep. All right.
Let's move to Saturday and a game, Vikings, Bengals. It's a good one. Good one. And it's an important game for 2 playoff hopefuls who lost their franchise quarterback, but they're in different stages right now. And it's good that you brought up where things are in Cincinnati and the optimism, but I also think that's interesting to keep an eye on because the Vikings lost Cousins to the Achilles. They trade for Josh Dobbs, who balls out for 2 weeks. Expectations go way up in Minnesota. Then they crash down to earth, and Dobbs to the bench now. Nick Mullins starting. So now that overflowing praise that was once reserved for Dobbs, that's been shifted in some way to Jake Browning, who has balled out for 2 weeks to raise expectations in Cincinnati. And now he has to see if he can make it go more than a couple weeks and help take Cincinnati to the playoffs. Hit it.
This game is huge for the Bengals. Obviously for the Vikings too, mathematically, but the Bengals are going to walk into a buzzsaw after this. It gets tough. They are 7-6. They're exciting and they're a very intriguing like wild card option. But they have Pittsburgh on the road after this, then Kansas City on the road, then the Browns to close out the season. So Jake Browning is not out of the woods on any front, but I just find them watching the last 2 games. It's like we've lost all these teams. We've lost all these storylines and narratives and quarterbacks. It's like one of them just got revived, like came out of the grave and is like not just marching slowly towards us, but sprinting towards us. And that's why the Bengals are fascinating to me.
But that's my point. Like just a little bit of caution because 2-game sample sizes are still small.
Right.
And I've been hurt now by the Vikings and Dobbs, who is so much fun, Greg. And now he is ancient history on that team.
He might be the 3rd quarterback this week. It is going to be Nick Mullins, who can kind of operate the offense and has been in the offense, frankly, for multiple years. They brought him there in a trade to be the backup quarterback, and he would have been the quarterback, not Josh Dobbs, if he wasn't on IR at the time. So I get going to him. I still like the Bengals here because their defense has played well the last couple weeks. They've had a history of really improving late in the season. Like their screen game has just been insane. So I do feel like Jake Browning has shown a little more sustainability in terms of the way they're running their offense, but he's playing a very difficult opponent. Vikings 6th in DVOA now defensively, 1st in points allowed since week 1.
Whoa.
The Vikings. And there was a quote last week from Aiden O'Connell, which I think applies here, which he said, they just make it so difficult to do our normal stuff. So this is like an ultimate test here for how hot Browning is. And a nice little assignment for our buddy Chris Rose, who's on the call for NFL Network. There's 5 games here. I'm going to be a company man, but this is a fact. There's 5 games this week that have 2 teams with winning records against them.
Ooh.
We got 3 in a row on NFL Network. They lucked out with the schedule here.
I like that Zach Taylor is not only coaching the team, but now he's coaching the fans as well.
Oh, yeah. Do we have that?
Do we?
I do challenge our fans. We got outstanding fans to, drink one more drink and rush in the stadium and be as loud as you can humanly possibly be when Minnesota's offense is out there and help our guys.
And that challenge is one that I would accept if I was
Did
there.
he encourage binge drinking there?
It's also a
I like that.
1:30 p.m. game, so
Let's go.
Get
Get up
loose.
early.
It is like the counter opposite of Sam Weiss telling the fan base to settle down and stop throwing garbage and items.
Yeah. So
Classic Weiss.
Zach Taylor. And then also Nick Mullins throwing for more yards in the fourth quarter relief effort that he had than Dobbs did all game. That game was such trash. Let's see a little bit of something in this game from them, please. God.
And
Justin Jefferson is back.
And that's great. And please, God, please, Vikings, win this game. Because if you don't, the team of ATL becomes
Team of
No.
Well,
we can't have that.
no.
Can't.
I think they're going to lose this game, but they'd still be in the playoffs. They'd still be the seventh.
The second time the
worst case.
Vikings did that to us under the team of 8.
I think then they can
Yeah.
rally, but I think this is a tough spot. But who knows?
You know what? Fool us once. Shame on
Don't now you
Shame on
you can't do worse than
fool us twice.
Fool me
Dude,
twice,
that's-
can't get fooled again.
All right, next game. The Steelers and the Colts. Mark, tee it up.
All right, I prepared like a little. I like how you did this because I made a little pregame show.
Ooh.
Oh,
This sets
that's
the
great.
table for you.
Excellent.
Okay.
A feast.
Let's try this. If Colleen Wolfe,
Mhm.
ice skating alone at the rink in quiet darkness before school, did not dream of fielding a perfect score at the Horsham, Pennsylvania ice skate fiesta, then the sliding doors nature of this life would not allow Colleen to be here today to tell us that Mitch Trubisky was a nationally televised disaster against the Patriots less than a week ago.
Mm.
If Gregg Rosenthal had not toiled by lamplight in his teenage bedroom, crafting lines of rebellion for local Massachusetts emo sensation Delaware, he would not be here to inform you that Pittsburgh is the first team in NFL history with a winning record to crumble in back-to-back outings against teams sitting a full 8 games under 500. Ouchie. If Dan Hanzus were not once in a parked car, his 10th grade gal pal Rachel Haynes St. Clair sitting shotgun, listening to Z100, night soot from the old coal town steaming up in the valley below, he would not be here right now to suggest that TJ Watt and Alexander Highsmith are both a little banged up ahead of a skirmish between two 7-6 teams that absolutely matters to human beings who care about the AFC playoff race. Clock it.
2 winning teams.
Well done. I
Yet
like the pregame show.
I don't believe in either one of them.
Look, Colleen said that. Colleen is pretty crucial.
I can come on your pregame show. I know Steve Smith would want to hear more.
Come
there
on,
like that.
come on
Yeah,
over.
I know.
Hey, we have a lot of time. 2.5 hours. So if you want to come by and
Times to
We
start.
don't get invited on anything. Let's be honest. We're in our safe space here. That's about it.
This TJ Watt story has gotten surprisingly little attention, that he got clocked in the face
Yeah.
to start that game. Then days later, one of the most respected coaches in the league is asked if he even undertook a concussion test, and Mike Tomlin's straight-face answer in front of the mic was, "Oh, I assume so." He didn't have an answer for that 4 days later. If this was 4 years ago, this would have been the raging story we're all talking about. But everyone's sick of blowing it with concussions.
Right.
And he had to change his visor to a tinted visor
Right.
during
Come
that game.
on.
This is one of the superstars in the NFL, and we're doing so wrong by them. And people have, I shouldn't do the people have given up, because we are the people. It's crazy to me, and I hope the NFL comes down on this a little bit. I doubt he's going to be in this game, which is quite a big deal.
When at
massive.
the moment that the player says, "I'm okay to play, but I need a tinted visor because the lights are an issue for me after that hit I took to the head," someone has got to be thinking bigger than we need to win this game tonight.
And
And that obviously wasn't happening there.
In this same matchup, there was a hit that Gardner Minshew took last week where when he got up,
It's happening.
he
there.
folded,
Jelly leg.
he folded to the ground.
oh
It's
my
like,
God, that's
like,
right.
so I don't know. I think it just seems like I will get you on where Tomlin should have been 4 days later, but during the game.
But
that's
that's
not
on the
Tomlin.
NFL. That's
Right.
on the spotter. That's on the whole system, which it really feels like has taken a step back for the first time since we've covered it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Steelers in general are just completely self-sabotaging at this point with the back-to-back losses against really bad teams. And I know traditionally, even when Big Ben played there, that was always their thing. They would lose to bad teams after beating up really good teams. And now they're in this race where they can't afford to lose because they're racing for the wild card. Pittsburgh, Houston, the Colts, they're all in it together, which makes it kind of a fun game here.
Yeah, I think the Colts are the type of team that they're always going to play close games. So part of me wants to totally write off the Steelers because that's as bad a 5-day stretch as you're going to see in terms of a team like telling on itself and saying, oh, we're not for real. Like you had your suspicions and then we proven all those. But like it's the Colts. Like so there is definitely a scenario where they win a game by 3 points here and they win a 21-18 game and they're 8-6 and in good position for the playoffs. That's just the state of the 7-6 mayhem.
It is. It's chaos.
We still don't have to take them seriously, though.
No, neither of these teams. It's weird. Minshew played, I thought, okay last week for once, and they scored 1 touchdown. And usually he plays terrible, and they score 30 points. The team makes no sense.
What was the name of the girl? Mary Claire.
Well, it's factual, so you should know. But it was
my
St.
memory's
Clair,
foggy.
something St. Clair?
Rachel Haynes Sinclair
Rachel Hayne
from the Sinclair family.
So was that
Rachel Hayne was one of those 2 namers, or that's her middle name?
That's the Haynes, like the fortune, right?
Yes,
like
so those
the
two
heir
fortunes
to
combined, the St. Clair fortune and
Really?
the Haynes. And you were
long time since then. I guess it just got foggy.
you weren't into the money part of it.
Yeah, no, that wasn't important to me. All right, finally, Connie, give us a little Detroit Denver breakdown.
The
Woo.
prime time game
Gotta love
of
it.
the triple header.
Where are you gonna be?
I will be there. I will be
yeah.
in Detroit. I've never been to Ford Field. I'm actually very excited about it.
Nice.
But for many different reasons, including that Sean Payton is visiting his old pal, Dan Campbell. And if you guys missed this, it's a nice little primer for this game. This is what Dan Campbell had to say about Payton visiting him.
It means we better be on our stuff because he's going to come here to try to embarrass us. That's what it means.
Nice.
And so that's our motivation. That's my motivation. And it's about winning, man. All we got to do is find a way to win. And we're going to have to be at our best. And we will be at our best.
We didn't do that, by the way.
Let's go.
That was just naturally underneath Matt Campbell, whatever he speaks.
Yeah. I mean, just like when he orders his coffee,
the band
it starts
shows up.
playing
He
all
has like
the time.
a speaker that was implanted in his biceps that just rips that song out.
Yeah. So 2 teams with the longest playoff droughts. And when was the last time that the Lions have been this good this late in the season? I think it's been since the 60s. So
last week. But yes, I mean before this
and
season.
I'll raise my hand and say the New York Jets have had a longer playoff drought.
Well,
two of the longest.
2.
Yeah.
I mean, they're up there.
It's been a very long time.
Yes. So I just am excited to see Ford Field filled with a ton of excited Lions fans for this team.
It's going to be a great scene.
This game matters so much for both of these teams. The Broncos are 1 game back from the Chiefs. They actually have a shot. There is a path for them to win the division. They're obviously in the wild card race too. And then the Lions are just kind of going through it right now. This is the time of year that you want to be playing your best football, and they've lost 2 of 3, including that huge division game to the Bears. So it's just, I like the student-teacher connection. Sean Payton and Dan Campbell, they go back so many years. Payton was the Giants quarterbacks coach and then the offensive coordinator when Dan Campbell was drafted by the Giants. Campbell, if you guys didn't know, third
Keep
round
vamping.
pick.
The clock hasn't started running yet.
Oh my God!
That's okay.
Start the clock.
I like
Someone else go.
No, keep going.
I want to hear more about that. The lineage.
Finish it
you were
off.
on a
Finish
run.
it off. They were
Okay.
together in
Please
New
finish. Yeah,
Orleans,
please finish.
certainly.
Yes, they were together in New Orleans. Although
Stretch.
I can vamp. You need me to vamp? No problem. Vamping for 2.5 hours on Thursday in the pregame
Yeah, you
show.
are.
Take us home.
So Dan Campbell, he was on that Saints team, but he was hurt, I believe, in training camp. However, Sean Payton made sure that he got a ring. They were together in Dallas and then obviously together in New York with the Giants. But he was a 3rd-round pick in 1999. They've been friends ever since, and now they're frenemies.
Oh,
I
and
like
he
it.
learned how to coach from him too. You know, being on that staff, and I think he's such a good coach. I love the way he put it on Monday about his players. He said, "I feel good. I think it's a positive because so many of our best players let us down on Sunday," which is just like such an interesting way to
challenge.
put it. Like
Yeah.
he said, like it was the players that always show up, our toughest, best players who didn't show up for him. So who's he talking about? Aiden Hutchinson thought had a really poor game, couple big mental mistakes, gave up big plays. Jared Goff, 34th out of 34 quarterbacks over the last 4 weeks, according to PFF, one of the worst against the blitz. in the NFL, third worst against a blitz, according to PFF, and Denver does a ton of blitzing. And their offensive line stunk, and that's kind of what they are known for. Frank Ragnow and Taylor Decker, who were both banged up. Missing Ragnow, who's their center, was a big deal for them, and they're both back at practice. So I think it's a good matchup for Denver. I'm surprised they're such a big underdog, but this would be a spot you'd love to see the Lions respond.
Yeah, two ways this goes, right? The Lions either crater now, and then we've begun to see them go down, and then they're going to end up kind of blowing their season here. Or, like a lot of teams, there's peaks and there's valleys, and maybe a primetime game is a chance to kind of get right and flush the last few weeks of frustrations. I'm leaning closer to that because I don't think they just became a bad team overnight. I think they're in a slump. But if they don't get out of it now, then you get really concerned that, this team is on the wrong track.
I like that they don't play a game outside the rest of the year. I think that this is good for them. But they aren't a bad team, and I love their coaching, and I think some of it's correctable. But since like week 10, it's legitimately been like a terrible defense. I mean, it's shown, and like they are 30th in points per game allowed. 30th on opposing passer rating, 29th on opposing third down, 28th in sacks, 30th in turnover differential. And Goff's been up and down after being so clean for so long, a season plus back. And you're dealing with a Denver defense that might be the difference maker here because they're allowing less than 16 points a game since week 7, and they've been creating turnovers left and right. And Goff has, I think, 6 turnovers, and like
right.
He's been a turnover.
My hope is like it was against division opponents who maybe know him well, but man, he struggled. And it's a nice matchup because the Lions give up a lot of deep passes, and that's what Russell and Sutton are so good at.
That's right.
Good work.
That's going to be a fun pregame show and halftime and postgame. Mike Garafolo will be up there on the desk with us. Maurice Jones-Drew, Michael Robinson.
Good group.
Yeah.
You and Mike G got that good chemistry, too.
It's like he's my brother.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Italian.
Exactly.
There you go again.
Uh-huh.
Colleen, you've said it all.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to plug?
Panic. Panic.
You could just say no.
I think that's it,
Good.
really.
Check
yeah.
out Colleen on NFL Network Thursday and Saturday. And,
you know what? I do have something.
Oh, go ahead.
Guess what? I think I'm going to be flying with the Thunderbirds, who are basically the Blue Angels equivalent of the Air Force.
Whoa. What do you mean flying with them?
I'm gonna go up in a fighter jet.
Oh, Colleen.
And I have to wear a G suit because you have a bunch of G's, and I'm so excited about it.
For NFL Network on behalf.
It'll be like Super Bowl related, so I'm gonna go up with one of the pilots that does.
You're going in a fighter jet.
Flyover. I
I'm
got
nervous.
medically cleared yesterday. Let's go.
Whoa. That is
That
wild.
sounds awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Can you see if Greg can go too?
Maybe, yeah.
Would you go?
I would go.
I'm really worried
I mean,
I'm
I
gonna
don't
pass
think they're
out or
gonna let
throw
me,
up.
but I would
though.
go.
Yeah, do you not eat for a while beforehand?
I don't know. I
Is
need
there
to
any
find
rules?
out. If anyone has any tips about flying in a fighter jet,
Yeah, you don't want to be.
let me know.
Kind of a niche, a part of the audience, but there's got to be somebody out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
They
awesome.
used to love on the network showing this clip of Terrell Davis
I know.
completely passing out when they did something
Yes, that is a
similar,
great one.
and he just was
Don't
out
do
cold.
that.
Don't do
No.
that.
So what do I need to do to prepare myself?
Somebody out there. There's got to be somebody, a listener out there that has experience in the fighter jet. Let Colleen what she needs to know not to pass out, and then become, a clip they use 700 times on this network.
Don't have like a
Right.
burrito right before. I feel like is a good move.
That's a good
Her
one.
DMs are open. Feel free to chime in
right.
with anything you have.
Let me know.
Yeah.
All right, we will be back tomorrow, Thursday, with our triple header, Week 15 preview in bulk, NFL Plus Dreamatorium, Thursday Night Football recap. Oh, it's all coming. It's all coming.
Exciting.
Till then, heed the call.